In lesson 4, we're going to continue our work with our quadratic equations and our word problems. A student is painting an accent wall in his room where the length of the wall is 3 feet more than its width. The wall has an area of 130 feet. What's the length and the width in feet? So if we look at this here, if we have a rectangular room, okay, because our length and our width are not the same, then we are going to end up with the fact that our length is 3 feet more than our width. So the wall has an area of 130 feet squared. So for area of a rectangle, we are length times width. So we are x times x plus 3 equals 130. We'll distribute. X squared plus 3x equals 130. We'll subtract that on both sides. X squared plus 3x minus 130 equals 0. So now we'll do our boxes because we're going to factor this. So x squared negative 130. So we need two numbers that multiply to negative 130 and add to 3. That's going to be 13 and negative 10. So as we GCF our top row, we take out an x. We get an x, a 13, and a negative 10. So then we end up with x plus 13 and x minus 10 equals 0. We're going to set each of those equal to 0. And we get answers of x equals negative 13 and x equals positive 10. So now we know our length and our width can't be negative, so therefore we're going to cross out our 13, and we end up getting a width of 10 feet and a length of 13 feet for the sides of our rectangle. For number 2, the contractor has 48 meters of fencing that he's going to use as the perimeter of the rectangular garden. The length of one side of the garden is represented by x, and the area of the garden is 108 square meters. Determine algebraically the dimensions of the garden. So if we look here, we've got a rectangle, and we know one of the sides is going to be x. We know our perimeter is 48, and we know our area is 108. So if we look at some of the things we've talked about, we know our perimeter is 2L plus 2W, and we know our area is length times width. Well, we know our width is x because it told us one side, so we'll just use it as the width. So we have the perimeter is 2L plus 2x, and then the area is LX. So what I want to do is I want to take that perimeter formula, which we know is really set equal to 48 because there's 48 feet of fencing, and I want to solve that formula for the length. So I'll subtract 2x on both sides. We get 48 minus 2x equals 2L. And then I'm going to divide everything by 2. And we get that 24 minus x is equal to L. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my area formula, which I know is set equal to 108. And I'm going to set that equal to our new length times our width. Now, we're going to end up distributing here, so you could put that x in the front. It's kind of up to you. But as we distribute, we get 108 equals 24x minus x squared. Now, normally we're used to these things being set equal to a positive x squared. So I'm actually going to bring all these things over here to the right-hand side, or to the left-hand side, excuse me. And in standard form, I get x squared minus 24x plus 108 equals 0. So now as I go to factor here, I'll be x squared and 108. So it multiplies to 108 and adds to negative 24. Well, that's going to be negative 18 and negative 6. So then as I look at it, I GCF, I get negative 18 and negative 6. So I get x minus 18 times x minus 6 equals 0. We'll set each of them equal to 0, and I get 18 and I get 6. So neither of those are negative, so we can't necessarily just reject them at this time. But what we need to look at is both of those numbers are the answers. So our answers are either the width is 6 and the length is 18, or it would be the opposite direction. But either way, we end up with a one dimension, or one side of the rectangle is going to be 6, and the other one's going to be 18. A rectangular picture measures 5 inches by 7 inches. Simon wants to build a wooden frame for the picture so that the frame picture has an area of 80 square inches. The piece of wood that he used to build the frame will all have the same width. So write an equation that can be used to determine the width of the piece of wood for the frame he would like to create. So if we draw a picture here, there's the frame, and there's the picture inside of it. And we know the picture is 5 by 7, because that's what it tells us. So if we look at it here, we know all these sides of the picture frame are going to be x units wide. So if we look at the total here, we're going to have x plus 7 plus x. So then at the bottom, we're going to be 2x plus 7. Vertically, we're going to be x plus 5 plus x. So it'll be 2x plus 5. Now they told us the area of the whole thing was 80. So we'll be 2x plus 5 as one length times 2x plus 7 as our width is going to be equal to 80. Now if you're going to explain how this models, you want to talk about the 2x plus 7 and the 2x plus 5 represent the new length slash width of the frame when you talk about adding together the width of the frame and the 5 by 7 that the picture initially took up. Now, what do we do then for area of a rectangle? So we multiply those together and set them equal to the total area of 80. And we are inches squared. So I want to talk about how you got those two expressions by adding up your x's and your original numbers, and then you multiply them together to be the total area. So the first thing we have to do to solve this is we have to put the 2x plus 7 and the 2x plus 5 into boxes. So this way we can get our trinomial. Remember, the first thing you always do is deal with parentheses in these problems. So you get 4x squared plus 24x plus 35 equals 80. You'll subtract your 80 on both sides because now we're at the point where we're going to set it equal to 0. Sorry, not 80. 35 minus 80 is going to be negative 45. So you always look to see if there's GCF. There is not one. So now we will multiply first by last. So we are 4x squared, negative 45. So we need two numbers that multiply to negative 180 and add to a 24. So obviously these numbers are a little bit bigger, so it might take you a little bit more time to figure this. And you should end up with 30x and negative 6x. So as we GCF the top row, we can take out a 2x, we get a 15, and a negative 3. So I'm going to bring that up over here. We end up with 2x plus 15 and 2x minus 3 equals 0. So now we'll set each of them equal to 0. So we'll minus 15, 2x equals negative 15, divide by 2, and you get negative 15 over 2. Well, that can't happen because we're not allowed to have a negative width of something. So our answer is probably going to come from our other one. So we add the 3, divide by 2, and we get a width of 3 over 2 inches, or a width for our frame of 1.5 inches all the way around. And that will give us the area of the picture frame that we are looking for.